Hello everyone, I'm the Red Man, and once again baseball season has come to an end, which means that, once again, your New York Yankees have concluded yet another cringe-tacular failure of a season, once again ending with an embarrassing playoff ass ramming.
I can't take it anymore! I just want to die! We all want to die! We're
Yankees fans. And that means that, joy of joys, it's once again time to compile a report card for Yankees general manager and world's least impressive jabroni, Brian Cashman. Spoilers, it's gonna be bad.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
But before we begin, I need to briefly address a defense I've seen on Twitter of Brian Cashman and his repeated failures. This defense usually goes something like, the Yankees and Cashman aren't abject failures because they won a lot of regular season games, and won the toughest division in baseball, and made the playoffs, and sometimes even win a playoff series. They made the ALCS, and that's a success. To these people, I can only say,
shut the hell up!
Listen to me. First of all, the AL East is not the toughest division in baseball. It's 3 poverty franchises, a pack of communists, and a dickhead circus clumsily jousting at each other. Secondly, we are the New York Yankees, not some poverty franchise like the Kansas City Royals. If the Royals, with their payroll far less than half of the New York Yankees, made the ALCS, that would be quite a success for them. But the Yankees have a payroll of $250 million and haven't won even an AL pennant in 13 years and counting.
Let me make this perfectly clear. This is not acceptable.
And listen, I get that no team can win every year. Even during Yankees dynasties, there were times when they lost a playoff series. It happens. But the Kansas City Royals have won 2, count them, 2 AL pennants and a World Series since the last time the Yankees won either of those things.
How embarrassing.
Now that we've cleared that up, let's get started running down Brian Cashman's various bonehead decisions from the end of the 2021 season through the 2022 season.
Joy.
Naturally, the 2021 campaign was once more an utter tragedy of a season, where a Yankees team with high expectations failed to meet any of them, appearing mostly impotent throughout the entire season, to be immediately eliminated before the true playoffs in a one-game wildcard circus on the road by the Boston Red Sox.
Actually, just kill me.
Quick aside, yes, Rob Manfred's wildcard dimwit derby round was never and still is not a legitimate playoff round. If you disagree, you are not a real baseball fan, but are formally invited to take Rob Manfred's turgid chode out your mouth. Back on topic, the train wreck of the 2021 season did one thing right in highlighting several issues/gaping holes in the Yankees roster. It was clear that the Yankees desperately needed a shortstop to play shortstop.
Well, no fucking shit.
Any catcher better than Gary Sanchez, which would be basically any catcher at all, a good center fielder to figure out what their plan was for both first and third base, and also probably shore up the bullpen. So, with this to-do list handy and with big changes promised for the offseason in hopes that the 2022 season would be less of a disgrace, the first thing Brian Cashman did was... The Red Man can already tell that beer is not going to see him through this video. Hold a moment while I go fetch the whiskey, and maybe a fucking bleach chaser. Indeed, after the 2021 season was an unmitigated disaster, the first thing Brian Cashman saw fit to do was to extend the invertebrate muppet who steered the ship into the iceberg.
One of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I have nothing more to say about giving Aaron Boob a 3-year extension that wouldn't violate YouTube terms of service and also probably United States federal law, so let's just skip to extending Aaron Boone 3 years. Final rating, F. Looking back, this was the point in time that the New York Yankees ceased to be a serious franchise. They are now a clowngasm, like the Mets, but with better uniforms. Let's move on before I strangle myself with a microphone cord. After Boone's infuriating extension, there wasn't much of any great import but signing some players to avoid arbitration. All fine stuff. Keep Domingo Germain around, hang on to Litke, and hey, want to keep Gio Urshela on the squad? Sure would be stupid to get rid of our only left side infielder for no good reason. But, oh, hey, Brian, I don't see Aaron Judge's arbitration signing. You didn't do anything monstrously idiotic, like lowballing our best position player in arbitration, right? Oh, no, I get it now. You're not signing him in arbitration because you're working on a nice, fat extension that will keep the only good position player you've ever drafted and developed besides Brett the Best Gardner here for the long term. Good thinking. I can't wait to see what kind of mutually satisfying extension you sign for Judge before the season starts. This video is gonna kill me. Go to the next thing. Yep, after the 2021 season proved to all the world that Brian's roster had serious shortcomings, he really didn't seem to be in any hurry to do anything to fix them.
I can't do this anymore, man.
In Brian's defense, this was before a lockout was set to begin over a new collective bargaining agreement, and many teams seemed reluctant to commit big free agent money without a new CBA in order to know what the luxury tax thresholds would be going forward. This was quite sensible thinking, but while other teams were hesitating, top shortstop free agent Corey Seager signed with the Texas Rangers. It's okay though. I'm sure when they get a new CBA in place, Cashman will start making some big money moves to improve the roster. Maybe we'll get Trevor Story, or Starling Marte, or maybe he'll really whip it out and sling it around and land Freddie Freeman. There are just so many options, I can't wait to see which ones he goes.
What the fuck?
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. The blockbuster trade Brian Cashman went out and got done to revamp the roster and seriously compete for a World Series. May God have mercy on us all. There are a lot of moving pieces here, so let's take them one at a time before giving this the old final rating.
Lord, bear me strength.
To start, let's look at what we got. First up, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, aka IKF, aka Elemental Mediocrity. A former Gold Glove third baseman apparently acquired for his glove in order to play shortstop, more on that in a moment, IKF was a passable on-base type hitter, with all the power of a particularly dainty French schoolgirl. He also ran the bases well, with one downright hilarious exception, which is neat for a team that largely ran the bases like gout-addled morons for all of 2021. But the plan for him to hold down shortstop turned out to be catastrophically ill-conceived. While he had good range, he consistently struggled with errors, apparently due to simply lacking throwing strength. He ended up with a middling field percentage of .970, which was 17th among MLB shortstops who played at least 900 innings at the position.
That's no good.
But we also got Josh Donaldson in the trade. JD was a former AL MVP, so surely he was going to be the big-time slugger to jumpstart the offense, right?
No.
Donaldson was MVP back in 2015. 7 years later, it seems time and injuries had taken their toll. While Donaldson had a very respectable OPS of 900 as recently as 2019, it fell noticeably in both 2020 and 2021. Naturally, Brian Cashman thought this, JD's age 36 season, was the perfect time to acquire his insane $22 million per year salary on a gamble that Grandpa Josh was due for a comeback season.
One of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
This gamble was a big old honkin' failure. With an assist from the useless tallywhackers employed as Yankees hitting coaches, Donaldson's previously declining OPS entered an outright freefall in 2022, finishing at .682. It wasn't pure downside, to be fair. To JD's credit, his defense at third base throughout the season was consistently
excellent.
But there is no level of defense anyone can play to justify a $22 million salary when every facet of one's hitting is below average. But there's one more player coming our way that might make this trade worth it, and that is Ben Rortvedt? Ben Rortvedt.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I had to Google him to figure out what position he played. Turns out he's a catcher. But he hurt an oblique before the season started, hurt his knee while recovering from that, and never played an inning, so I won't be mentioning him again. And that was the haul we received for this trade, charitably summed up as acquiring Wingus, Dingus, and Mingus at the combined salary cost of $27 million.
Oh, God, help me.
God help him.
Now, for what we traded away in this deal. First up, Gio Urshela.
Why?
No, seriously, Brian, why did you trade away the only one of your Galaxy Brain bargain bin acquisitions that actually worked out? For the uninitiated, Urshela was previously acquired from the Blue Jays minor league system for cash considerations. He then became a completely serviceable MLB third baseman, hitting for a solid average with just a pinch of power and playing good defense. Then, Brian Cashman, apparently unable to cope with doing something right for once, traded Urshela away in order to replace him with Donaldson, who cost 3 times as much and generally played worse. Brian.
What the hell is wrong with you?
On the bright side, the other player traded away was Gary Sanchez. So at the very least, we didn't have to spend yet another year watching that donkey-clawed buffoon plumb depths of catching incompetency that even a multiple amputee would struggle to comprehend. And there it is. That's the whole, quote, blockbuster trade, unquote. Gio Urshela and Gary Sanchez traded to Minnesota for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Josh Donaldson, and Ben Rortvedt. Final rating:
-5 stars!
This will not be the last time I have to go beyond letter grades for Brian Cashman's actions. This trade was catastrophically bad. Historically bad, even. Donaldson was a downgrade from Urshela, despite costing 3 times as much. IKF was a terrible solution at shortstop because, you know, Brian, he isn't a shortstop.
You dumb fuck!
And the catcher who was probably fixing to back up Kyle Higashioka now that Gary Sanchez was gone got hurt before the season started and never played. This trade was so wretched that it managed to take the fun out of finally getting rid of Gary Sanchez, worst catcher who ever lived. So let's move on to Cashman's next embarrassing disaster piece. Oh wait, this one was actually a banger. Acquired at the trade deadline last year, Rizzo was a fine all-around first baseman. And, for once, Brian Cashman did the obviously correct thing in simply paying a player of obvious high quality. And, to the surprise of exactly no one, it largely worked out. While Rizzo's average was lower than usual, his power was high, and he played his usual rock-solid defense at first base. And, as weird as the following sentence is to say, Rizzo did an excellent job of getting hit by pitches.
Wait, what?
Hey, whatever gets you on base in a possible Icy Hot sponsorship, dude. The only downside was that Rizzo missed about 30 games with nagging backaches, which probably cost him reaching 40 home runs for the first time in his career. How will that impact the oh-so-important Red Man final rating? Let's find out. Re-signing Anthony Rizzo for $16 million per year. Final rating: A. Solid A. If it weren't for the missed time, easily an A+. And even then, Rizzo was probably underpaid a bit. Just goes to show how nicely things can work out when you do the obviously smart thing. Though, my good viewer, do you think Brian Cashman actually learned a lesson from that?
Hell no!
Next up we have... another round of arbitration signings. As usual, it's pretty ordinary stuff. Though, as usual, there is one final arbitration signing tacked on to the end that makes me question if Brian Cashman is on peyote.
Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
That's right. After Joey Gallo, hereafter referred to in all contexts as Joey Garbo, hit a woeful 160. After being acquired by the Yankees at the 2021 trade deadline, Brian Cashman voluntarily paid Joey Garbo $10 million. Will somebody please pull Cashman aside and let the hairless Egypt know it's possible to simply non-tender a player? He really doesn't seem to grasp that, but more on Joey Garbo in a minute. We gotta keep this going or the video, much like the Yankees championship drought, will never end. After Ben Rortvet's oblique injury left Kyle Higashioka as the only catcher on the Major League roster, Cashman was left scrambling to find literally any solution. That turned out to be trading Albert Abreu, a relief pitcher with mostly unrealized potential, along with Robert Alstrom, who is of zero consequence, to the Texas Rangers for Jose Trevino. This desperation move to acquire a catcher out of the bargain bin turned out shockingly well. Trevino actually produced some offense and was a top-notch defensive catcher. In fact, with Trevino catching in 2022 and Gary Sanchez catching in 2021, the Yankees went from 85 wild pitches in 2021 to merely 40 wild pitches in 2022. Trevino was such a competent catcher that he proved the official scorer was a corrupt rat who recorded all of Gary's past balls as wild pitches in order to protect Cashman's fragile ego. So, trading for Jose Trevino, final rating, A. This trade was pure positives. Trevino was a dependable catcher all year long, making the All-Star game and winning a Platinum Glove.
You love to see it.
Though I hesitate to give Cashman much credit for this, partly because I simply hate him with the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns, but also because his plan was to rely on Ben Rortvet to catch. Acquiring Trevino only happened effectively by accident after Rortvet got injured. So what's next? Yep, that was the whole offseason. After 2021 was an unmitigated failure, Cashman's genius plan to revamp the roster and contend for a championship was to, replace Gio Urshela with Josh Donaldson, replace Gary Sanchez with Ben Rortvet, and add Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
We're not counting Rizzo because he was already on the 2021 roster, and we're not counting Trevino because, as mentioned, that wasn't the plan. That was a desperate accident. So, how did this roster supercharged with players no other team wanted manage to do?
Very, very well.
To begin with, at least. Indeed, the Yankees started off the 2022 season absolutely waffle-stomping everybody. At the end of June, their record was an unbelievable 56-21.
Damn!
This was primarily a result of the whole pitching staff dealing entirely out of their minds, Stanton and Rizzo both being healthy and hitting fat bombs, and of course Aaron Judge hitting home runs like he was trying to set a record right before free agency.
Wait a minute!
Forgive me, I must have missed when Judge signed that generous long-term extension before the season started. Let me just go back and I'm not seeing it in this list of transactions. I don't understand. Oh? What's that guy just out of earshot of the microphone? You say Cashman lowballed Judge on an extension and Judge declined it? Then Brian lowballed Judge in arbitration? And they had to settle that in the middle of the season? Brian, you detestable profligate, you had better hope you know what you're doing. Because if you screwed up extending Aaron Judge before the season started, and then he goes off and has a career year, or even does something wild like, just to throw out a hypothetical here, set the American League home run record, you are gonna look like the God Emperor of all dickheads. Boy, I sure hope that doesn't happen. Alright, that's an aneurysm for another time. Back on topic, after their white-hot start, the Yankees went 13-13 in July as hitting cooled off and pitching returned to earth. Once again, significant flaws in the roster were apparent, and once again the trade deadline was approaching. And once again, Brian Cashman was set to make big money moves. So once again, let's see how that went. The first move at the trade deadline was to acquire Andrew Benintendi in hopes that he'd be the high-average, low-strikeout kind of guy they desperately needed to bat leadoff and also play corner outfield so that we never had to see Joey Garbo play baseball ever again. Benny got off to a rough start as a Yankee, but after a couple of weeks he seemed to find a groove and started hitting. Then he broke his wrist swinging a baseball bat.
What an asshole!
No, I'm not kidding. He broke his arm swinging a bat. Didn't even hit anything with it. This injury ended his season. Even when Cashman makes a totally sensible move, the Putts cannot catch a break. Acquiring Andrew Benintendi. Final rating, C-. This was a move that, in a rarity for Cashman, made perfect sense at the time it was made. Unfortunately, the injury ruined it for everybody.
Oh my God.
So, Cashman knew we needed a fierce pitcher to really put the rotation over the top, but he didn't want to give up enough prospects to get Luis Castillo from the Reds. So, instead of just holding on to quality pitchers like J.P. Sears, Cashman decided to sell 4 prospects for someone everyone with half a brain knew wasn't any good from a basement-dwelling AL West team. And what's this picture of Joey Garbo doing on my screen? That's not the right guy. Though seeing Mr. Garbo does remind me I've seen this sort of thing before, I wonder if it'll work out any better this time. Frankie Montass had just come off the injury list when the Yankees acquired him. He then pitched like fetid ass butter for a month, then he hurt himself again, only to come back to pitch 1 inning in the playoffs where he again pitched like ass butter. Acquiring Frankie Montas for the entire farm. Final rating. Day after Taco Bell Grande Chalupa Hot Sauce Firehole shits.
That's terribly vivid.
This was one of those rare trades where what a team got was such hot garbage that they would have been better off simply cutting the guys they traded away. Between the Joey Garbo trade, the IKF Josh Donaldson trade, and now the Frankie Montass trade, Brian Cashman made 3 such trades inside of a year, yet continues to enjoy better job security than any Supreme Court justice.
There is no justice. There is no God. Do you hear me?
At least we can only go uphill from here, right? This move sees Brian Cashman trade Jordan Montgomery, our 3rd best starting pitcher at the time, for Harrison Bader, a center fielder who was in a walking boot.
What? What the fuck?
Listen, there is nothing wrong with Bader. In fact, when he was finally healthy 2 months later, he played well. Even hit a bunch of mostly superfluous home runs in the playoffs. But that's not going to stop what's coming. Jordan Montgomery traded for Harrison Bader. Final rating, maximum over cringe. This has nothing to do with Bader, who is a fine center fielder. This is about the totality of Cashman's failures, something I'll get into greater depth later, but needs stressing here. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it was blatantly obvious after 2021 that the Yankees needed to fix center field. Cashman's solution was to decline Brett Gardner's option and then do absolutely nothing else and go into 2022 with the plan being to ride or die with Aaron Hicks.
What, are you retarded?
And that obviously idiotic idea failed so badly that even Cashman had to admit it, and thus he had to trade away a quality, homegrown pitcher who only consistently improved over the years for an injured center fielder.
I can't take it anymore! I just want to die!
Alrighty then, is there anything else, or can I go find a cliff to take a running leap off of now?
Finally!
Oh, happy day. The long national nightmare is finally over. Joey Garbo is no longer a Yankee. Though I must stress that the initial trade for this jackpile will go down as one of mankind's greatest atrocities. Glad to be rid of you, Joey, you crybaby bitch. I sincerely hope that, for the rest of your life, your underwear remains damp.
An eternity of swamp ass!
Final rating. Love it, love everything about it. And that there is all the trade deadline moves by Brian Cashman to get this team ready to make a run at a World Series. The result was that the Yankees went 10-18 in the month of August. Red Jesus save me. At this point, it's all over but the crying. The rest of the season was the usual. You know, bumble our way into the playoffs and get booty blasted out of the playoffs without ever looking like, oh my god, I almost forgot. How could I forget about mustache master Matt Carpenter? Signed in May for peanuts when even Brian Cashman had to admit that Joey Garbo and Aaron Hicks were rancid imbeciles, Matt Carpenter came in out of the minors and semi-retirement and started laying fat dick all over the place. He hit .305 and hit a home run literally every 10th at bat, then fouled a ball off his foot and missed the rest of the season. I say again, Red Jesus save me. Matt Carpenter, final rating, B+. The injury ruined everything, but it was great fun while it lasted. So that brings us to the end of part 1 of dumping all over Brian Cashman. Oh yes, there's more. We've been over each and every chromosome tree individually. Next time we'll be taking a step back to examine the greater Down syndrome forest of Brian Cashman's incompetence and failure, including the downright criminal mismanagement of a couple of youngsters. Subscribe to the channel and or follow me on Twitter if you want to know when that comes out. Thank you for watching this far, and I'll see you in part 2, which should hopefully be out before New Year's. Take care till then.